Hey guys, we've got Amanda Douglas from Celebration Title Group with us today. What an interview. This you talk about team building, culture, differentiating yourself in a crowded marketplace. You want to talk about bringing a joy to a business that, especially just like us in the insurance business, is not perceived as sexy. Incredible interview. You're going to get so much out of today. 7 years ago, she started her journey, and she has since then grown up to 19 offices throughout not only Florida, but outside of Florida, some of those being a franchise model. Incredible value. In 2021 and 2022, they were named top 10 places to work from Orlando Business Journal. And then in 2022, top 5,000 companies in Inc. Fortune all over the country. The amount of grace and compassion and love that she has for her craft is unmatched, and it's one of my favorite conversations that we've had since we've had the privilege of sitting down at this round table and inviting such special guests. So strap in, take care. You're not going to want to miss this right now on the Be Extraordinary podcast. Hey guys, this is Brett Young, Taylor Young, and Rod Erb, and you're tuned in to the Be Extraordinary podcast with Erb and Young. Real conversations about business, leadership, and personal development. Welcome back to another episode of the Be Extraordinary podcast. Today we have the Titan, Amanda Douglas with Celebration Title. I'll tell you what, we have been trying to get together for a while now.
Long time, yeah.
And I think it was like this, more or less. I see you in the marketplace. You seem to be everywhere. I heard it the other day with somebody's like, you never want to compete with somebody that's everywhere, because the amount of effort and time and team that they have to put able to do that is just somebody that's just fierce. And I just look at you as absolutely fierce. So thank you for being on the show today. I can't wait to get into some of these questions. It's going to be fantastic.
Awesome. Likewise, I see you guys everywhere, so you know what it takes.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
There's three of us, so we divide and conquer.
Exactly.
Got it.
I was at an event and someone was like, are you guys brothers? At this point, it's been like 20 years, so we just say yes.
Yeah.
You know, so Taylor's my biological brother, and Rod's our brother from another mother.
That's right.
So.
Got it.
Who metabolically seems older.
But
I have more grays.
by default, we're all brothers now.
Love it.
Incredible. So, man, Amanda, we have so many good, cool questions to ask you, probably more for ourselves than for the listener. So hopefully the listener gets some value today, because we have such a tremendous amount of respect.
And if they don't,
what you've built.
At least we had our mastermind, right? Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So kind of bring me up to speed real quick about kind of your journey, because it's been so fierce and so fast and so big. Right now you're at 19 locations across the state. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yes.
Incredible. 4 of them are franchise locations.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
And how long of a period of time from when you opened the doors?
So we started in February of 2016. So yeah.
That's incredible. Unbelievable. I mean, talk about the growth curve from that. It's just absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Which I know before the camera turned on, we were talking about operators and having good people. And I mean, obviously that sounds like that's your secret sauce. And
100%. Yeah.
So give us kind of the cliff notes, if you will, from start to today. What has differentiated Celebration Title Group to create such momentum within the space? Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to kick it off by saying, what has been your favorite part so far in this incredible journey?
Well, it definitely has been the people. I mean, you started it with that, but no one really loves title. I mean, it's really insurance, right? We're all doing insurance in this room. So it's not sexy. There's nothing exciting about it. But, I was interning for an attorney when I was going to law school, and he owned a title company, and this was back in 2005. And I just saw that this is like something that is so important, like the most important thing that people are doing, right? You celebrate getting married, you celebrate having a baby, and then buying a house is so monotonous and boring, right? It's so stressful. They're at the closing table, and I would do closings, and I would just realize, like, they really are asking for more. That you were giving them the key and kicking them out the door. It was just so busy, and they just felt like a number. And I just saw an opportunity of us being able to provide an experience. And, my heart is in marketing. I always say we're a marketing company disguised as a title company, because none of us really like title. It's the vehicle that gets us to do what we love to do, which is just celebrate people. So that's been my favorite part, is building a culture of people just who love to work together. I've never experienced that in a title company. I've worked for a lot of attorneys' offices, a lot of title companies. I feel like you guys have created the same thing in an insurance space too. You've taken something that is super boring, but you're making it really fun by creating an environment for the people. So that's just been my favorite part, is creating a culture, the marketing. We just have fun every day.
I love that you said marketing.
Yeah.
Oh man, that just gives
it's all
hits me a
marketing.
certain
Yeah.
way.
Well, and I think that's the one thing that a lot of people miss in title is we have such an amazing opportunity to create an experience. We've got everyone sitting there at the table. We've got access to everyone in the transaction. It's our job to, make it an experience and a celebration at the end.
So what does that look like? Because it's just, there's a lot. Sometimes you think about like this entrepreneurial doing something worthwhile, that's big, that's beautiful, and that makes an impact. It has to be this new thing, right?
Yeah.
It has got to be this, I got to come up with this new app, and it's got to have this cool thing, and it's got to be different. And so, but you take these timeless businesses and you repackage them and put some really cool bows on them. Talk to me about when somebody sits, because obviously I agree with that. When I closed on my house, it was super boring. And I just sat there and signed documents, and we just talked about something that didn't matter. And it took a long period of time. There was no music
What
playing.
a non-event.
Yeah.
What a non-event.
Like there was no, like, there was just, it was so a non-event.
You're definitely not reading what you're signing.
Well, and we were so excited, right? But then we were also like kind of nervous, and then you're like in this spot. You're like, and then afterwards you're like, well, did we do it?
Yeah, you're like, is that it?
Wait,
like,
that's it?
Yeah.
I just bought a house.
Right. So talk to me about
they're
what
like,
the
here's a key, you can take a picture, and that's it. Like, you're begging to take a picture at minimum.
unbelievable. So
Yeah.
what does that
Or
experience
you're
look like?
remembering to take.
Yeah.
We got to remember to take a photo, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what does that experience look like for you guys, for
Sure.
your clients who
Well, and it's funny that you say like these age-old industries, because I feel like there's so many more industries that once they realize you're a customer service industry, and you can get business just by creating experience, because we can't change title. I can't give somebody a better policy than the other one. It looks exactly the same. And I think bare minimum customer service, right? If you ask somebody, why do they use the title company they use? A lot of time they're like, oh, communication. I'm like, that's such a bare minimum anymore. Like, why is that your number one thing? That should be like, that should go without saying, right?
Given.
Communication. So, I just, from start to finish, what I did, I kind of took, we call them like the Disney, they're like the most important part of our closing experience. We call them like kind of the Disney celebrators. So they're our celebration experts. So a lot of times when you go into a title company, you do a closing, you're doing it with your closer, right? Who's done balancing your CD, and they're, they don't really necessarily have the personality.
Sure.
So a lot of our jobs, we personality profile. So I'm big into that, like huge into, there's a system we use, and I recommend it to every entrepreneur that has a team, and that the teams work together. It's called Crystal Knows, and it does like 5 different personality exams on every employee. And then you can actually match employees together to create teams if you're going to do any sort of brainstorming, or even if you have to have that group of team, you create a workbook, and it'll say, oh, which person is better at like maybe being the leader of that job, or being, who's going to take the notes, who's going to, implement things like that. So it's amazing. Crystal Knows, I would highly recommend it. So we do a lot of personality profiling. So a lot of our celebration experts, they're the ones creating the experience in the closing room. So they're the high I personality. They're, making it fun. They're making it exciting. They're shooting off the confetti. They're telling all the jokes. When I first started, I wrote a whole script, right? Nobody really wants to listen to how boring it is, like the documents. So I always like slid a joke in there. We're big on puns in the office. If you guys see our social media,
So you created talk paths on the signed legal documents with humor.
Exactly.
And, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just because, again, these people have probably been packing all day.
Mm-hmm.
They're so stressed out. They're running to the bank. They're doing their wire. They're doing everything. It's just like they want to get out of there. So like, let's make it a little bit fun for them.
I immediately think of Southwest Airlines, right? You get on any airline and they give you the safety spiel, and then you get on Southwest and it's sort
so
of
funny.
It's
Yeah.
a production.
And you actually watch it, and
Yes.
you're like, okay, this is
You're laughing,
entertaining. So that's what I wanted to do, is just make it entertaining, because they have to do it, right? It's something that you can't skip. I don't know if we're ever going to get to a space of having completely online closings at any point in our lifetime. We'll see. But, I think that it's our job. And, I always said there's 2 things that make me cry. And one is my kids, and the other one is golden buzzer moments on America's Got Talent. And I always had this vision of like creating this like confetti falling out of the ceiling, like you got the golden buzzer at the end of your closing. So that's kind of how it happens. And we love it because it's unexpected. I think a lot of people, there's a lot of people copying it now. And like, I even say, I'm like, I love it because people should be celebrated. And I think it's created a movement in our title.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was curious, because I think about that and you go, okay, you start and you're solving a customer's problem. But then also, did you back into solving a recruiting problem too?
Yeah.
Because the same, boring traditional experiences, title, insurance, whatever it is, doesn't necessarily make somebody thrilled about saying, hey, I want to go do that for my career.
100%.
So by shifting that perspective, it seems like it solves a little bit of both problems.
Yeah. And I've been big on recruiting people that actually don't even really have a lot of title experience, just because simply, we call it kind of the silver tsunami in title. If you guys have noticed, it's a very older generation that works in our,
I've never heard that.
And, what's going to happen in the next, 10 years, they're all going to retire. So we don't have that gap to fill of new, fresh people, coming right out of college. And I'm like, you love title. Like I can make it fun for you.
Wow,
so
that's a huge opportunity.
So it's a big opportunity. We have a lot of younger staff. I recruit heavily when I'm out to dinner, anyone that's got a great personality. I'm like, hey, would you love a job? We shoot confetti all day. And they're like, sure, tell us more. So, I'm big on just recruiting people.
Yeah.
And it's all about finding the right people, and then you can place them in the right positions. And I think, in real estate, a lot of people want to go after people with a book of business, or in title, again, want to go, grab these people that have a lot of experience because they don't want to take the time to teach them. But I find it super rewarding when I can train somebody and teach somebody a skill that can make them a career for the rest of their lives. So
I think there's something you just said there that I want to circle back to. You talked about, you don't sit down to recruit. You're always looking to recruit,
Always,
right?
yeah.
So it's like, I think that's something that you can take away if you're listening to this, right? It's like recruiting is just part of your fabric. It's who you are.
Talk to me.
You see somebody with a cool attitude or a cool perspective or cool energy. Why not, right? I mean, why not? It's like that person may be just praying for someone like you to come along that recognizes even in their darkest or lowest moments, they've still got a great attitude or whatever, or they don't have something going on and they just have a good attitude. So, man, I just think that's so cool to hear, right? It's like, you just, and we've got so many stories similar to that.
ABR, man, always be recruiting,
right?
You call it the
Love
3-foot rule.
Yeah, and it adds to the fact that in our business, people say, "What's your biggest challenge?" Well, I just can't find good people.
right.
Well, then stop trying to go to Indeed and find good people. Not that they don't exist. I don't mean that, but it's like the likelihood of you connecting with somebody like you connect with people when you're out to dinner.
Yeah.
And they immediately feed off your energy when you come at it with a little smirk that says you're looking for a great job, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. However you do. I didn't want to pass by that. That's a clue to people
Well, I
listening.
think too, what you said is like, they say they can't find good people because they're looking for people that they don't have to take the time to train.
Amen.
And I think the soft skills, if people have it, they show up, they're 100% every day. You can't teach those things. So I can
so
teach
true.
the technical stuff, but if I can just find a good person, which there's so many out there. I mean, I have probably several benches full of people I would love to hire right now,
I love that.
And
Goodness gracious.
Oh man.
but they're just good people, and I want to give them an
Did you prep
opportunity.
her for this?
I know.
No, it's so funny. It's so similar, but
Yeah.
it sounds like you're doing it at a velocity that we're not doing at, just as far as how deep your bench is. And how cool is that when an opportunity comes up, you already have, and you maybe even had conversations with these people
Oh,
already,
for sure.
right?
Yeah. I'm like, as soon as I'm ready, I know the server at Eddie V's. I'm like, as soon as I am ready for you, you are coming this way.
The one I'm just
But think about
we
this.
did say that though. We did say that about a server.
There's a lot there.
Think about the paradigm shift, though, because most people listening to this podcast, I had somebody text me yesterday and said, hey, can you send me one of the podcasts about people and recruiting? And I was like, well, there's a lot of them. And I was like, you could take a look at the titles. There's a lot of content there. He's like, okay. And I said, I'll take a look, and I'm going to send him this one. But it's just so incredible that most operators, anybody that's in charge of leading people, they're saying, I don't even have enough people. I can't find them. I have spots and I can't find them. And you're going, I have a bench full of incredible humans, and I'm just antsy to be able to get to the point where I can plug them into play. It's no wonder you've been ultra successful and you have this growth curve and you've been able to do so much because, I mean, you're waiting for the business to catch up to your recruiting pipeline. That is a complete different shift in 99% of people that we even have sometimes on this show. Like that is you talk about a superpower. That's incredible.
Well, and then to pair that with the fact you just said you can teach them the technical. We believe that as well, right?
Yeah.
Give me somebody that's got good etiquette, good energy, charismatic, dynamic, good integrity, right? It's like you'll do well here or anywhere for that matter with those qualities. And if you have the mindset of we can teach you, you use the silver wave or whatever you said, the silver something. Silver tsunami. I call them retreads, right? From an old business that I was in, I used to kind of have something similar where it's like, you know, hiring people. Well, let me tell you how it is. Let me tell you how it is. And I'm like thinking to myself, that's not how we do it, right?
Sure.
So I think there's a lot to that too. I love to hear that. Love to hear that.
There's a lot, you know, and there's a lot of industries like that where they do have that, you know, the baby boomers that are all retiring. That's why we call it the silver tsunami. There's so many. You know, I talked my underwriter, First American, we were talking about it the other day, like how they're having to like hire examiners out of retirement because it's just not a job that people are wanting to do anymore. So there's so many industries like that where just, you know, going to those college fairs and just finding good people because you don't come out of the womb and say, I want to be a title agent. It's not, you know, that's not one of those jobs, right? So it's something that we have to actively recruit for and pitch it in a way that you're joining a family and you're joining something bigger than just title.
So do you guys do that? That's a good question. So if I'm a listener at home and I do have that challenge, I'm not maybe as outgoing as maybe someone like yourself is to do the 3-foot rule, which is, man, as soon as somebody gives me a good smile, I'm like, I think they could be a great insurance agent. But that's not intuitive, and that's not necessarily easy for a lot of people. That's not their personality. Are you guys doing that as far as going to career fairs? Where are those?
We're doing that as well. I mean, you have to have every personality in your business, right? We need the workers. We need the ones that aren't necessarily out in the field and they're not necessarily on the phone all the time or having to talk to clients. So we need the hard workers too. We need those high S and C personalities, and you know, we need all of it. So we're constantly out and recruiting and career fairs, and again, we really try to lean towards people without experience, and it's hard to untrain people a lot of times when they're really stuck in their ways. And the way that we do things at Celebration is completely different than most title companies from a process perspective.
That's really good. So I'm going to get even granular to try to give some nuggets. Are you going to local colleges? Are you going to community colleges? Are you going to the big box universities? Are you going to trade? Give kind of some, if you don't mind, some granular stuff.
Yeah, so mostly UCF, like UCF fairs and things like that. So they do a ton of stuff there.
Awesome.
We've gone and spoke at their real estate school before, so that's a really, really good one to speak at. So if there's any, like they allow tons of businesses to come in and speak at the business college. So I think those are really, really amazing opportunities for anyone that has a business.
That's amazing.
You just got to reach out to the professors and ask, and they have a lot of holes to fill in their classes.
Yeah, we actually hired somebody from a UCF speaking engagement and had a list of a few other people, and it was kind of unexpected.
Yeah.
But you know, I think for the person that thinks they have to have it all, kind of just if you go present yourself well and you have a good energy about it, I think people are more attracted to that than you necessarily having it all figured out or saying all the right things, right?
Agreed.
So that's where I think the communication with a waiter or server or something like that, sometimes there's just a connection. And if there's a connection, that may not be all it takes, but it's worth another conversation and approaching that conversation. So I did want to ask a question. Go ahead.
I got one that's burning a hole in my pocket, but go ahead.
Wait, I have my hand up.
It's amazing. Run it. That's great.
No, I was going to shift gears to culture from a recruiting perspective. Like one thing to get people on the bus. Now you have this growing business. It's like, okay, we're moving fast. We're getting good people. It's all of a sudden, is there a how do you maintain, how do you continue to evolve culture past that initial phase where it's 3, 4, 5 people that I've all hand selected and we're having a blast growing this thing to now we're in X amount of markets, 19 different offices, 4 franchise locations. I mean, how do you hold that in this season and what have you learned?
Yeah, so a lot of it is just, so we have a whole culture calendar that we do every month with all of the offices. Like we get together, we make it super gamified. So everything is, You're winning like confetti BEP points, so it gets people to participate in the culture. So, you know, every team meeting we have is themed, like you dress up, like, you know, we have a lot of amazing culture events, and we have somebody in our office that just strictly runs culture. So we'll have 3 to 4 events a month, and whether it be, you know, decorating a pumpkin or, you know, decorating your desk for a holiday, different things like that. So we all get together. Our team loves, you know, we'll just do a random like bingo, you know, we're like, okay, everyone take a break, get on Zoom. We're going to have bingo with amazing prizes. So, you know, we just try to like break up the monotony of the day, because it can be a very monotonous job, right? You know, when you're constantly just working these deals and, you know, handling clients. So we try as best we can. It is really hard, you know, with people all over. But Zoom is our best friend. We're always like, just jump on a Zoom. Let's, you know, have a break. Let's have a stretch break. I do a ton of personal development classes. So I'm super blessed that I get to go. And, you know, I know we were talking about Tony Robbins and, you know, things that, you know, my team, I take some of the things, I will strip it apart and just get super basic, get a Zoom class together about, you know, manifestation or whatever. So they all know how spiritual and they always say woo-woo I am. And they're like, okay, here goes another woo-woo class. You know, what are we doing today? So I love it. And that's kind of keeps our culture
You're welcome,
together.
by the way, if you're listening to Amanda. You're welcome for that.
So I just take, you know, I think, again, like I said, I'm super blessed to be able to participate in those things. And it's changed my life. And I will say that a lot of my team members will say, like, they never even knew personal development was a thing. And that's such a big part of our culture. What
is personal development? Define that. How do you perceive personal development? How do you approach that word or that use of words? Because I think it can be thrown out a lot.
Yeah. I think, you know, as humans, we're not really given the tools to adapt very easily to life, right? We're kind of just like, a lot of people are just floating through life and they don't necessarily have the tools to develop a mindset, you know, to handle challenges, right? We're in a super challenging industry, especially right now. You know, like I think personal development is just really, truly like training your mind on how to handle life and how to handle other people. You know, I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah, that's very good.
That's a great answer.
For those of you that are not watching this, I've been taking notes the entire time, so maybe we put my notes in the notes.
The show notes. Yeah.
That's really
Well, and
cool.
I always say too, like personal development is amazing, but you have to be able to implement it too, and that's what I do. Like with my team, I'm like, we have exercises after. I was talking about our emerging leader program, where people work with me directly for a year, and it's all personal development. It's like we don't really talk about business because I really think that if you can get this right, you can get this right.
Yeah. And I think to myself, I go back to the couple Tony talks that I've either been to or heard. And he says, you know, people say knowledge is power. And he's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Knowledge is potential power. You've got to be able to take action. What you're saying is
take action.
It's not just, you know, knowing it. It's knowing it and being able to, you know, execute on
Absolutely. Yeah. They call it shelf development. If you're just, you know, going to the classes, taking the notes and you put it back on the shelf, right? You got to implement it.
Yeah. Shelf development.
Yeah, our 3 pillars are showing up, activity, and personal development. And we do usually see that the personal development is the missing piece. A lot of people do not actively participate in that consistently, and it is kind of the missing piece. However, then you also have that other part where you're just reading personal development and you're not doing the activity. It's just that they have to go hand in hand. We call it learn knowledge, activity knowledge, right? You got to learn the knowledge and then you got to go out and do it. Then you got to go back to learn knowledge and you got to go do it. And it's just, it never ends. It's just this toggling platform where you stair steps. So it's really,
I love it though. It's like you asked earlier, what's my favorite part? And it is seeing my team evolve into just better people, right? They're better with their families. They're better at work. They're better with their friends. And I think as a leader, like the greatest gift I can give is someone else's self-esteem, like building their self-esteem, making them a better person. So I truly believe that.
So good.
Yeah. You could argue that the personal development is the act of being able to adapt. Like it's it's almost like skill development, but it's like not professional skill development. It's like the ability to say, hey, I was just like emotionally triggered by the way this person came at me. Yeah. And in the moment I have to figure out how to navigate this and not lose it. or something is that simple.
It's very simple, and accountability is a big one, right? A lot of people don't like to admit when they're wrong. You're just not taught those skills, early in life, and how to just be able to work through tough conversations. And I think it's incredible to even training admins, all the way down to people who don't necessarily have to do that every day, but they're like, gosh, I'm just a better person by doing this personal development that we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, because usually if you can handle conflict better at work, you could probably handle conflict better at home.
Absolutely.
Right? And there's this integration that people sometimes like to shy away from, that you think like, oh, I'm this person at home and I'm this person at work. But it's so blended because, you can't just, these habits that are ingrained in these learned behaviors that we have, you can't just shut them off and turn them off. And if you can shut them off, you can only do it for a very short period of time until that rises to the top. And I think working through that is a noble cause, because usually it doesn't just affect you. I mean, that's the greatest gift that you can give yourself, but it also affects your ecosystem, your kids, your spouse, your friends, your relationships, whatever it may be. So I think it's powerful to see past that in the recruiting side, because it's a value that you give to prospects that you're recruiting too, is, hey, come be a better person. We'll show you how.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm working on, speaking of personal development, because I love this. By the way, your question was exactly my question.
Mine too.
Which is really cool. Man, we're really synced this morning, huh?
Oh, we do a lot of cheesy stuff too, by the way. On the culture calendar, it's nothing like crazy, but we'll follow. Have you ever seen all of those dates where it's like today's like National Pizza Day, or today's National,
there's so many.
Like there's so many.
Every day
it is
something.
so easy to just like pull 3 or 4 of those and like do it as a group every single month. So.
I know National Donut Day, because there's a Krispy Kreme by my house and I get so annoyed. I'm like, what's going on with this traffic? And then I see a line of 40 cars. I'm like, guys, donuts aren't that expensive.
Yeah.
Like, I'll buy you a donut to get out of the way. How about that?
We're all so competitive. That's why I said we had to gamify it and get points. And, now we have this confetti icon trip that we do, like based on how many points they've had. So it's really just encouraging participation in the culture. Yeah, it's very systematic. Like we created our own like online kind of intranet that, does all these points, and then you can see the leaderboard. Everyone just gets so competitive and really into it. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And it's all in culture.
It's incredible.
Yeah, that does answer that question though, right? Like you systematize, gamify this and taking and then put it across the whole ecosystem that you can participate in. That's cool.
Yeah, because the question I really had was to Taylor's point, was just every time you add a location, especially when it's farther away. I mean, this is something that we've been challenged with. Is just, it's easy, not easy. It's not easy at all, but it's familiar when it's right there in your own office. It's familiar when it's right down the street and you can go over there and check in and make sure you're influencing the culture. But it becomes less familiar when you have to influence from it being a system instead of it being your personality. And it sounds like, you have figured out how to be able to do that it's not about Amanda, it's about what we do as a company that creates this type of environment.
Yeah, definitely.
I was thinking along that same line, though. It's duplicate, right? It's like you started this with a strong belief and a strong idea that this is how I want it to go, right down to the talk tracks, right? I when I was listening to both of you talk about that question, which was similar to mine, was just the duplication aspect, right? It's like, how do you duplicate yourself to ensure that you don't water down the culture or water down the process, or, how do you duplicate yourself?
Well, even the simple things of telling a joke, right? It's like that is a very specific, intentional way of creating a consistent experience. Really cool.
Well, and you have an energy. Sorry, I know I asked a question, but you have an energy that I can tell that when you bring it into an office, people are like, "Oh my God, Amanda's here," and it's oh my God, it's Amanda's here, right? I can already tell that. So I just think in terms of duplication across all those sites and all those different environments and subcultures that develop, right?
Sure.
You've got your culture and you've got a way to make sure that it travels.
Yeah.
But inside of each office, I'm sure you've run into subcultures.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a challenge, right? It's an ongoing thing, but that's why I said, there's a lot of times people will put leadership as a title or something like that. And when I say I do this emerging leaders program, it's not that they like are moving into the next position, right? They're not moving up, but they're just emerging into a leader. We talk about quiet leaders in our offices all the time. When I know. So, quiet leadership, right? We can see it. There's somebody in every single office that, we're watching to step up. I think that a lot of times people will get promoted and they just expect something to happen where, I don't want to promote until they're effective in that position. So it's like I need somebody to be a quiet leader before that actually happens. In every office, we have what we call a confetti captain. So they that's their job, is to get the culture going. We rotate it, and that's a big part of who we look at in going into our emerging leader program.
You're almost stair-stepping into an opportunity for them to show a potential higher level skill set, but still have an impact on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've
what a constructive way, though, a quiet leader, what a constructive way to take someone that you think either does or could have certain characteristics that will be able to influence behavior at scale.
Absolutely, yeah.
What a constructive way to just sit them down and say, listen, we need quiet leaders before we need leaders. And I want to know that whether you say it in this way or not, it's like wanting to make sure that they're effective as a quiet leader before they become the person that's probably charged with influence.
Yeah, and I think and then that's what pushes me to grow so I can create opportunities for these people to step into leadership. It's really hard when the business is booming, and sometimes you'll get those leaders where you have to place them because you just need somebody in that position. So I try to slow down as much as I can, and unless I have the leadership that I think can move into that position.
Wow. I've never heard that term before. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
what term? Quiet leader?
Yeah, quiet leadership. Yeah. It's really, really good. Really good.
Yeah, you mentioned, though, the pace of which the business is growing.
Sure.
I think you'd like it to be this perfect cadence of growth and steadiness, but it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
At least in our experience, it's like at first it's like not growing quick enough, right? So the hire's such a big deal, and then you got to get it growing, and then at some point it feels like a freight train out of control. That you're just placing, moving, promotion. You go, oh my gosh, we got to make 4 hires this week, and then you make the 4 hires, and you make a couple mistakes, and then the wheels fall off, and then it seems to come back in a rhythm.
Yep.
So that's so interesting. You mentioned that cadence, because I'm sure entrepreneurs and leaders throughout the planet experience that all the time.
It's hard. It's really hard to stay within that, because, 4 years ago we were having to hire like crazy, right? We all were. And now it's not the same. So, I think it's really interesting to watch it. And a lot of times, my leadership team will have a conversation about a position. I'm like, I don't think we have anybody that's ready for it, but we really try to steer away from hiring from the outside. That's just part of our culture. Like something that, again, I like to develop people from within.
Yeah.
If it's a desperate, we need to hire somebody from the outside. I think we've only done it maybe twice in 8 years. So
you're more talking leadership roles.
Yeah, leadership roles. Exactly.
I'm curious about something, Amanda. Hiring and recruiting, are they the same thing to you or different?
I think it's the same. I mean, it's all one piece, right? So recruiting, I think recruiting really never stops, right? You're constantly recruiting them even when you hire them. Into other positions. You don't always get it right the first time. You put them in a place in the company, and then they may not be working out there. You see, they have different skill sets. We have a lot of people that move across different positions in our offices.
Man, I love that. You're still recruiting them after you hire them. I love that. I just wrote that down. Shocker. I have a couple questions for you that's on that. Chaos, right? I think it's sometimes I listen to podcasts and I listen to these incredible individuals that I have such great respect for. And sometimes I come back to my own experience with our own business and I go, man, it seems like it's got to be so buttoned up. It must be buttoned up for them. It's total chaos for us. Can you kind of speak to a little bit more of what Taylor's talking about as far as the person that just feels like it's out of control? Like all of a sudden you get exactly what you've asked for. Mm-hmm. What does that feel like? Have you had that moment? Have you is it multiple occasions? What does that feel like the first time you experienced it? And how have you been able to get better at working with that?
I think that chaos is just part of our world. I think that nothing's ever really going to be perfect. We think we got it figured out and then we have to shift something else. We're always constantly learning. But I think as entrepreneurs, we kind of love chaos. I thrive in a very, not chaotic, but again, a buttoned up chaotic environment. We chose real estate, which is the most chaotic industry ever. So we all got to be a little bit crazy at some point, but I think you constantly get better at the chaos. I think it's just, again, the only thing you can control is the way you react to it. And if you're calm, your team's going to be calm. It's whatever you're giving out, they're going to, like really truly emulate the way that you are approaching certain situations. So, now, right, is a very chaotic time in real estate, and I'm constantly talking to my team about the industry, what's happening, what we're doing as far as sales go, because they can get very, paranoid. And, that to me is the most important thing, is trying to create peace in I think the chaos is really never going to go away in our industry. So it's really truly just about figuring out what you can control, which is just your mindset.
Yeah, because you probably had the chaos when all of a sudden it went gangbusters.
Oh, yeah.
And you had too many closings and not enough people.
Yeah, there's that chaos of too many closings, and then there's the chaos of, okay, we may have to do a layoff, because the market has shifted. So the chaos, I've felt them all for sure.
How do you, when you say you can only control the way that you react to that, have there been some instances in your past, in the beginning of this, or maybe just not as a mature, operator, to where maybe you didn't react the way that you would like to react, or react now? And then, are there anything that you kind of do from a ritual perspective, or is there something that you do to insulate yourself from those old behaviors? Because I'm always speaking to myself with this, because I'm still really working on that. There's some things that you do to mitigate against, maybe reacting the way that you wouldn't want to react during those times?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just always at a pause before, there's power in the pause, is what I always say. And the reaction, I'm not a reactive person. I was in the past, I would react to things very quickly, quick to jump to a certain situation or an email or whatever. A lot of times when you just pause, things kind of work themselves out. You figure out okay, they figured it out, right? Or something happened, but there's just power in the pause of taking a minute, taking a step back, putting yourself in that other person's shoes and that perspective. I always look at the intent of the person rather than what came out, with the situation, what was their actual intent, and get down to that. So, and get super granular before I actually, react to anything. That's my most thing that I try to teach as many people as possible. Cause they'll come to me in chaos, and say, oh, so-and-so said this or whatever. And I was like, okay, but what was their intent? Or they always do this. And I'm like, do they always do that?
Sure.
They've never not done that, right? The overgeneralized statements. So I just try to bring it back to that perspective. And again, I always teach everyone there's power in pause.
Thank you for sharing that. It's really cool. That's get granular on that stuff, because I think that's one of the threats with operating in chaos, is that, you just feel entitled to react because you're under stress.
Yeah.
And, the difference between pressure.
We're not allowed to use that S word in the office.
The difference between pressure.
That's a cuss word. We don't say stress.
I love that.
Yeah.
I was just about to say the difference between pressure
or
and
overwhelm.
stress.
That's our other one. Yeah.
Is perspective. It's they're the same thing. It's just depending on how you view it, your frame in which you look through. So it's a great. And
what are the words you use?
Well, there's plenty of other words we can use, but though we have those off limits words. So stress and overwhelm.
So if somebody says stress, you hit the,
we're like, no,
button.
We're like, everybody pause. Yeah. Shoot a confetti cannon at them, do something.
I love that.
Yeah. Everything is about shifting gears too, right? Because if somebody is in that moment, a lot of times people don't know how to get out of it. So, we've walked in people's offices and shut off the lights and turn on music and shoot a cannon at them. And then they're just okay.
I can't help but ask, that change of state is a product of high level coaching. And we've talked about this before with the cameras came on, your relationship with Tony Robbins and his suite of products and that journey.
Yeah.
So when you talk, I see just development written all over it, right? Just the way that you've talked through different things and words you've used, and just how well and articulate you speak. You're welcome. I'm curious how that has shown up through you in your business.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's everything with my business. I didn't even start personal development. I got introduced to it after I had started my business. So, I was living in chaos. I was like, okay, this is definitely going to take off. I need to get some help on myself, right? I didn't know what I didn't know. And when I started personal development was when my business truly took off. I knew that has been the catalyst for my business. Tony Robbins says the psychology of the leader is 90% of the business. So I'm constantly working on myself.
That is strong. I wanted to ask you about taking off. Why franchise? Why more locations, and then while you're thinking about that, I'm just curious at what comes first, the operator that can run a location, or the location and then you place the operator?
Sure. So it kind of is, it's more about the person typically. Franchising has been an interesting journey for sure. But it was one that title is so different from state to state. And I kept getting approached with opportunities of, different realtors or title agents in other states that were seeing what we were doing and they wanted to implement it. Mm-hmm. And, I didn't know that I would have the capacity to go national by myself, right? I'm the sole owner, sole operator of the business. And I was just like, I don't know if I have the capacity to do a multi-state operation. So I started to look into franchising where, hey, I could give them all the tools. Because again, we're a service industry. Anybody can open a title company. But we're giving them our branding, we're giving them our marketing, we're giving them, access to everything that we have on the back end, our systems that we've created. So I thought it felt like a perfect franchisable package. And then, taking a royalty off the top where I wouldn't have to necessarily have my hand in those operations from so far away. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because again, culture is such a big piece of what we do. I didn't want to stretch myself too thin by trying to grow into other states and have this big dream of going national. I'm like, there's so much business that can just happen in Florida, and stay here with my people.
Yeah. So there's kind of that balance between making sure that your core business is really, really strong and getting the attention, but also this excitement about, hey, like some people want what we're attracted to what we have, and spreading the mission and being able to grow that. So it probably toggles back and forth.
Yeah. And most of it was around the operator, right? Somebody who has been in the industry for a while. They wanted to open their own thing, and, they wanted to have a brand behind them. So I think that's something really interesting, because not a lot of title companies obviously franchise or grow that quickly, but we've been able to do it just based on the brand package itself. Yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah, because the time and effort and energy to travel to the state, do exactly what you do with your other offices, the investment that comes with that. It's like, hey, we can't, that's just not something so we're going to equip you with the tools. We're going to equip you with what we built. We're going to equip you with how we run it. Mm-hmm. And the sky's the limit for you.
Yeah. And I just didn't want to move, again, culture is my baby. That is what has grown our business. So, we struggle even with our office that's, 3 hours away. And I didn't want to, be able to take away from what we're already doing here, which is, stick to our values, which is culture.
Super cool. Couple questions. 2021, 2022. Mm-hmm. I think you guys won Best Place to Work in Orlando Business Journal. Is that right?
Yes, we won. I can't remember what place. We were like 7th place. Yeah.
Okay. So 7th place. So why
7th and then 4th,
we've talked a lot about it, but I want the listener to hear it from you. This will be kind of a recruiting plug for anybody that's looking for an awesome, because I've talked to a lot of your teammates, by the way, before we've met.
Okay.
And every single person sings your guys' praises. I hear the word just impactful, changed the trajectory of my career. I'm just super happy. All the things that, you've talked about today. I that's what got me so excited to meet you, was just what you're talking about today. So I can attest to that. But why would somebody come work with you? What does that look like for them in regards to, career change, but also long-term, some of the things we've talked about today?
Yeah. So, I think, a lot of people that we recruit into Celebration either, have some sort of finance background or have worked in some form of real estate, whether it be transaction coordinating, things like that, where it's kind of a linear business, right? There's not a lot of growth. You can go past that position. So we bring them in just basically saying, we have so many levels to what we do. I don't think people even notice from the outside how much title actually does. There's a huge piece in the beginning, right? There's just the closing is only an hour of what we do. And there's a huge piece on the back end, right? A lot of funding, title policy, recording. We have a lot of phases within the office. So I think it's just saying, okay, we have a lot of places we can move you. We've got sales, we've got marketing, we have basically a ton of positions. So we like to pull a lot from these positions that are a very linear company and don't have a lot of growth opportunities. So, and then obviously us being on a growth trajectory, we've constricted now, right? Which I think everybody kind of has, right? And had to do. But I think we're doing that, and, you know, that rubber band effect where you're just pulling back and waiting for 2025. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
I'm curious, do you guys market directly to real estate agents and lenders?
We do.
Who's your
So we have a ton of clients. So obviously the client, right? The one buying or selling a home. We've gotten we get a lot of business from for sale by owners. Like, we're targeting those as well.
So a buyer knows of you and says, I have my title company already.
It's very unusual. So our marketing mostly is to real estate agents.
Okay.
Yeah. About 90% of our marketing is to real estate agents. Lenders, you know, when refis come back, obviously that's a big part of our business as well. But, you know, sometimes, you know, it's starting to become where the sellers actually know a title company because they've done a couple of transactions now, and it is the seller's choice in our market. Some markets is buyer chooses title, but ultimately you're looking at your real estate agent for guidance on who they prefer.
They do an incredible job. You guys do a lot of town halls and a lot of cool events, and you bring realtors in, and you do a lot of just guest speakers. And I mean, that's just
well, that was a big
really
piece for us too, as we realized there's so many agents that just need education, or they crave it, you know? And so we built a whole online class and program, and we teach classes 3 or 4 times a month. A lot of underwriters will give classes, but, you know, we like to have fun classes, and we like to make it a little more fun. We teach classes on Canva. We teach classes on a ton of different marketing tools, things like that. So we're teaching the agents things that they don't learn in real estate school, but they need it in order to actually, you know, be successful.
Yeah, Canva is an incredible piece of technology. I just didn't even think about that, but it's so useful for somebody to put together a promotional flyer that looks incredible, and it's not as challenging as you think. You just need some guidance.
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
That's really useful. So you're looking at what problems can I solve in their business? Let me help them do that, and then let's talk about what I do.
Absolutely.
Well, I think too, it's like, even if you don't know their business, I mean, you hit on it so much, right? It's like, forget the technical stuff. Let me just teach you some of the soft stuff. You're probably equipped that way if you're a real estate agent, but let me connect some dots. Even.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's the big opportunity there.
Yeah, we'll bring in sales coaches. I mean, we do a ton of education because I think that, again, is something real estate agents are really craving, especially now.
So let me ask you a pivot here for a second. So you just talked about all these different things that you guys have done, and I'm just thinking, how have you done all this in such a short period of time? What does, outside of work, like, what does Amanda love? Like, how do you have time to pack all this in? And, you know, and you just have this rich, abundant, you know, incredible personality. I know you're loving what you do, but what is it outside of work? What's that look like?
Well, I don't do it myself. I'm the typical visionary. So I know my leaders will probably listen to this and they'll be like, we're the ones implementing everything. So I have, you know, 95 ideas when I come in, and they'll be like, okay, we're going to do 2.
I love
like,
that.
we're going to take 2 of them, Amanda. We'll do the rest next year. I'm like, okay, fine. Cool. But I always get happy when I at least get 2 from them. They're like, okay, those were good ideas. We'll implement those. But, you know, outside of work, you know, I'm a mom 100% of the time. So I have 2 boys, and they're my world. I have one at UCF now. He's 19, and then my youngest is 16. So it's a lot of time. But I love being a mom. That's my number one thing. And of course, all my personal development, my yoga, Pilates, my stuff that I keep myself healthy and happy.
Super fun.
Yeah.
How did you, so what's interesting, I'm just tracking your kids' ages, and I'm thinking about 2016 is when you started the business.
Yeah.
And they're 5, 6 years old, right?
Yep.
So how did you balance and juggle? And because for you to make it the priority, say, look, I'm a mom 100% of the time. And then, by the way, I do this work thing too. Like, how did you hold that and to come up and now to this day to still be an incredible mom, an incredible leader, and juggle it all?
Yeah. I think there's no the word balance doesn't really exist, right? You're going to be an amazing mom one day, and then the next day you're going to kind of fail a little bit, and you'll be a better leader. So it's always like it's a balancing act. But when I started the business, my kids were young. I started the business, you know, I was a single mom. My son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes about 6 months before I started my business. And I just had that, like, a moment of clarity where I was like, you know what, I've got to start doing something that, you know, is going to build a legacy for my kids. Because I am just working paycheck to paycheck. Now I'm getting hit with, you know, more bills based on just keeping my son alive. And I'm like, you know, the only thing I can do for them is believe in myself and just take this leap of faith. So I brought them in to, you know, help me in the office. My my son works at the office. He works there 3 days a week. So they've been ingrained and they know how hard I work, and they have been so supportive since day one. So it's really amazing.
Wow.
That's incredible.
I'm so happy I asked that question. That's incredible. It's
Thank
one
you.
of the most impressive
Yeah.
things I've heard the entire time. That's
Yeah, I think it's just, again, I always tell people it's never too late, right? I didn't have any money. I didn't have any backing. I didn't have anything. All I did was just like have this moment of clarity, like enough's enough, right? So just it's never too late just to believe in yourself. That's all you got to have, just that little spark.
Yeah, I was going to say, was that something that was planted early and it had been brewing, or was that just a day of decision that just came?
It was, it's funny. It was planted by other people. So I would have a lot of people that would say, you should go open your own office. Like I worked for several local title companies, was the closing agent. I would try to do extra little things during the closing. My boss would be like, just get your closings done. Like, get out. You guys are laughing too much in there. And I'm like, okay, and so I would always and then I would move to another title company and all my clients would come with me. And, it was like, they would all say, you should just start your own thing. Like we would follow you. We would totally. So it was about other people believing in me first. And then finally I was just like, gosh, if they all believe I can do this, like I should be believing in myself. So yeah, that's when I just kind of sparked it. So that's why I'm so passionate about, pouring into other people. I always say that my greatest gift is seeing more in somebody else than they can see themselves, and just constantly reminding them and telling them until they take a leap of faith on themselves.
Wow, because you saw that in you.
Yeah.
How good is that?
Yeah.
Hard to refute that one.
Man. Well,
Yeah.
Amanda, I'm super grateful. I know these guys, we've talked about it before you came in, how super, super humbling it is, and we're excited to have you in here. And I hope this becomes a friendship for life.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I love you guys. I love this energy. I could talk all day with you guys. So
great.
Yeah, I know, our offices are right next to each other in Melbourne. So
Yeah.
just whenever you open another office, just let us know.
I'll let you know. Yeah. And I'll
we'll
be like,
be
there's 2 suites, guys. You got to go next door. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Like, we didn't plan that. That's
Yeah.
kind of cool. I think we had reached out to try to get in touch and realized that, holy smokes, like we're right next to each other over there. So that's really, really cool. But, well, I don't know if you guys have any final thoughts, Amanda. The last question I had for you, I don't know if you guys had any one before. I was going to rip on the last question, but I just, there's a lot of people out there that maybe don't necessarily believe in themselves, or they are scared and they have aspirations to do things, but their perception is their circumstances keep them from doing things. And tomorrow will be the day. And when I get to this point will be the day. And if I could just get to this, I'll do this. What's the message that you would leave them with if they were sitting at this table with you right now?
Yeah, I think probably one of the biggest things, again, when I talk about other people believing in me, that really pushed me is like mentorship, I think, is something that's very underrated. So like just putting yourself in the right circles, like finding a mentor. A lot, we talk about you are the equivalent of the 5 people you hang out with, right? So like if you're not believing in yourself, you're probably hanging out with a lot of people that don't believe in themselves either. So it's just finding a different circle, maybe joining some sort of business networking group, or, reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn. There's so many people out there that had mentors that would love to be able to give that gift back to somebody else. So it's just making that connection of like, hey, I really admire this person. I've had people reach out to me, and I've mentored them, here and there. So I think it's amazing when somebody just takes that initiative. I think mentorship is probably one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself.
That's incredible. And one thing about your story, I just is so impressive. I feel like we're so blessed to have each other, and there's 3 partners, and especially in the early days, it's just for you to do what you've done as a sole owner. And I know you've built an incredible leadership team, and shout out to them too. But that just speaks to the mentor aspect and the toughness that you're able to get through those times and persist, because it can be lonely.
Yeah.
And it can be lonely even with 3 people in some of these challenges and these chaotic moments. And I think your story is just so inspiring.
Thank you.
To be faced with the circumstances that you were and make a decision, and then to know that you, your kids, and everyone who's around better for you, going on that journey.
Thank you. That means a lot.
It's awesome. Well, gang, let me last thing before we leave, and the listeners that are home, and where can if somebody wants to use you guys for their closings,
Sure.
if I'm a real estate professional, if I'm a lender, if I'm somebody that I'd like to enhance my client's experience at closing, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
So best way is I'm always on Instagram. So definitely give me a follow at Celebrate with Amanda. You can reach out to me. We have our own Instagram, Celebration Title Group. Follow us there. Website, celebrationtitlegroup.com, anyone there, and reach out to me if anyone wants to chat, just Amanda at celebrationtitlegroup.com.
It's amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I'll tell you what, thank you for being on the show. We do have a cannon down there, I think.
We do. I was actually going to flip.
We should have let it go,
I'm
but
gonna do it.
all you guys out there, thank you so much for watching.
Thank
You guys
you.
are amazing. Thank you for the love and support. Share this episode. Share it with somebody you know. Bye-bye
I
for
love
now.
it.
Is this what you use?
Yeah, it's similar. Yeah, what color is that? You don't even know, huh?
I'm going to show you.
Okay.
Are we still rolling?
Oh, no, I unrecorded it, but it's we can do it, though, again. We can edit it.
You can do a video
That's awesome.
with the picture.
Yeah.
That
That'd
we
be a perfect
usually do.
promo.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh my gosh, thank you
We
so
still
much.
Oh
rolling?
my gosh, of course.
That was
awesome.
amazing. Yeah.
Are we-
well,
let's put our headphones
he's
I don't know.
still
You got to ask Miguel.
Miguel, are we still rolling?
Oh my goodness. Here we go. Hold on. You flip it? Oh, you're going to get it.
Ready?
That's awesome.
The team's going to be
love
like,
it.
what the gun? There's a
Well, they
gun
know.
that went off.
I know.
They're going to be like, oh, Rod's playing with that shit again.
Yeah.